So, microphone is over there.
Siri, it was with some eagerness and some trepidation that I started reading The Sorrows of an American last night. And I have to say, I'm 100 pages in and I'm not disappointed.
Oh, I'm so glad.
But something that gave me a moment of delight in reading was the reappearance of Leo Hertzberg in your story. And I was just curious to know, I could form my own ideas about why it might be that you had drawn him into that story. But I was interested to hear why you thought you'd done that.
Well, I like to think that I was Leo for 6 years, and I had a lot of trouble giving him up. And so I think I brought him back at a dinner party in the middle of the book as a third-person character. I liked looking at Leo from the outside, and I also liked the fact that I could give him to Eric's sister as a friend. I liked the idea of Inga and Leo befriending each other, and it somehow continued Leo's story on a bit.
I'd like to go back to your previous novel. I'm fascinated by the intricate detail of Bill's works of art that you put into that book. How do you create those works of art?
It's funny about Bill's work. In a way, for me, that was the easiest part of writing that book. And it was a very difficult book for me to write. But I just saw those. It's like I had mental images of the works, and then I described what I was seeing in my head. I think if I could make visual art, I would make the kind of work that Bill was making. So it was fun to invent it, even though they're merely verbal descriptions.
Siri, I'm sure you've been told by now that most Australians, when they hear about Minnesota, particularly Norwegian Minnesota, know this from Garrison Keillor and Lake Wobegon and so forth. And this is perhaps a trivial question, but I wondered, do you think he presents an accurate picture of the Norwegian scene?
Well, it's funny. I heard Garrison Keillor years and years ago. He was very popular in Minnesota, as you might imagine. And but I remember thinking, how could anyone else think this is funny, except we who grew up in Lutheran church basements with hot dish and bachelor farmers, all of that. And then I realized he became very popular all over the world. And the reason is, I think that provincial life is the same everywhere.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much for that presentation this morning. My question is about the bulge in the pocket.
Yeah.
Before my father died 4 years ago, I managed to document some of his history as a refugee from Poland after the Second World War. And although I've been to Poland many times and met the family, it was only when I returned 2 years ago that they took it upon themselves to tell me that the history he'd bequeathed to me is not the real history.
Right.
So I wondered what when you said it goes to the next generation, I guess I'm wondering what I pass on to my daughters and my nieces. I'm struggling with what the history is, the one he left me or the one they told me.
Boy, I think that, this question is, I broached this earlier, the problems of memory itself. And, sometimes there is, outright lying. I mean, people disguise and hide a painful past. On the other hand, sometimes there is what we would think of simply remembering differently. And how we can really never find that, absolute truth of things. I don't think our minds work that way. I don't think the brain will cooperate. You'll never find the original memory. But I do think that if there's been active disguise, for maybe very good reasons, the best thing to do with children is to tell them, the truth to the best of your ability. Or maybe to tell the parallel story so they know everything.
Psychologically and emotionally, what I loved was an absolute knockout. And I'm wondering where that truthfulness comes from and whether you yourself have experienced tragedy in your life or else where that came from.
Yes, where do these things come from? I often ask myself that. As I said, I think that I'm always looking for emotional truths, whatever that is. It's some kind of internal geography that we do have imaginations and empathy. And when you really extend yourself into an imaginary situation, for example, as in what I loved, losing a child, because I'm a mother, I think from the very moment of pregnancy, the fantasy comes that you might lose that beloved child. And so in the novel I went to that fear and wrote as best as I could about it.
Siri, thanks very much indeed. You will be signing books, I hope, at the book tent shortly.